How to do, y'all? We're gonna do something a little different today. We're actually gonna put our hands on my pickup truck and make some changes because we got Daytona coming up in a couple weeks, and from time to time, large Mars makes me want to blow chunks. I said it. Anyway, every once in a while you hit a road in my truck like that, especially in South Dakota, and you're just like, you're just sitting there going like, any minute I'm just going to paint the inside of the windshield from doing this for a freaking hour. And what that is an excessive amount of tongue weight. I mean, like, she's all in when I put my rig on there. Let's figure out, I'll show you what the truck is and all that stuff so we can sort of get everyone caught up who might be new to the channel. So, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for hanging out. It means a ton to me that you stopped by. We don't normally do car stuff. We normally do custom motorcycles and choppers and baggers and all Harleys and that sort of stuff. But today we're actually going to work on my GMC. This is Large Marge. Large Marge is my 2022 GMC Denali 3500. She is the diesel variety, which I think all 3500s are. I don't know. Do they even make a gas 1 ton anymore? I don't know. But she's a single rear wheel. Why? Because my driveway is not wide enough for a dually. So this is as much truck as I can have in this wonderful HOA that I live in. So while the drivetrain is fine, I could pull all kinds of weight, no issues at all. My rig is 36 feet long, weighs, when she's fully loaded, just under 14,000 pounds, and tongue weight is 1,200-ish, something like that. So well within the limitations, but still 1,200 pounds of tongue weight will make your truck swim if you get into a rhythm, and it's just a little irritating. So I've thought about airbags in the past and all this other stuff to just sort of like fight that sag a little bit. And actually, I was contacted by a company. I didn't even, contact them. So out of the blue, 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, I got an email from a company named Hellwig. We all know who Hellwig is if you're a truck nut, but Hellwig does heavy-duty suspension stuff, sway bars, helper springs, all that kind of stuff for heavy trucks that are really worked harder than Large Marges every day. And what you do is you use their helper springs to sort of beef up the suspension that's already there. I myself am not a fan of lift kits and all that sort of stuff. No offense, don't get all upset. I live in South Florida. Every truck down here has got a 6-inch lift to it. But I also imagine those 6-inch lifted trucks don't pull. At least not pull to their maximum capacity because, sag and the Carolina squat doesn't work with 14,000 pounds on the rear. Margie pulls what she's meant to pull all in. So something would help to fight that sag a little bit. And Hellwig's helper springs are going to make that difference because this guy's got big old leaf springs in the back, and a helper spring, I guess I'll just show you, looks like that. So what you got here is some big old leaf springs that are bolted together with mounts that will sit on top of the axle, and as the suspension moves up, once it gets so far, instead of just hitting a stopper or something, it's going to hit these helper springs, which will help fight that, sag. So should make a huge difference. I'm excited to put this on because, again, in like 3 weeks, I'll be pulling to Daytona, which is not a crazy long drive, but we would try that out. Also, as you can see, we got a heavy sway bar. So what this is a replacement for the stocker. Okay, so you have a sway bar, or at least I do under there, I'm sure, but not like that. You know what I mean? So this stuff is really going to beef up the rear end of Large Marge, so when I pull my rig fully loaded down the road, it doesn't make me want to blow chunks out the driver's side window. So I'm going to go pick up the little one, then we'll be back in a minute to get into this. But essentially what I got to do is not jack her up. I'm basically going to go put my jack right under the axle to steady everything because I think I'm going to have to take the wheel off. I can't imagine me getting this done with the wheel on. I mean, maybe, but why? So I'm going to sturdy up the rear end, chalk the front wheels, all that sort of stuff, and then we'll take the wheel off so that I can get access to the suspension easily. And what we're going to do is take that factory stopper off, this guy here, because that's just, 2 leaves that aren't doing a whole lot, and the helper springs go in that place. We'll do the sway bar another day because it probably deserves its own video, but let me go pick up the little one, they'll be back, and then we'll get to work. You don't realize how big a 275/65/20 is until it's like off the truck and in your hands. I mean, I'm not a small man, but like it's at my belt. Damn near. All right, so we got the wheel off. What we got to do now is things and stuff. So these guys come off. These U-bolts here come off. And then I gotta figure out the rest, but I'm pretty sure I eliminate these and the new setup sits on top of it. Let me consult Manuel. This 1-ton truck stuff's for like real men. I don't know if it's for me. The nuts are big. Like, it's lots of big, heavy stuff. And I'm whining, but nonetheless, it's a thing. So I'll show you these helper springs before we throw them on the bike. So used to saying that, on the truck. All right, so in the box, you've got the leaf springs, the U-bolts, the nuts, all the plates, all that sort of stuff. So you stack these up, run a bolt through, and then tighten it down, just assemble your springs together. And then you got this sort of saddle plate, top plate. It's not hard stuff. It really isn't. It just takes larger tools like a inch and a 1/16, something I only have in a shallow, meaning I'm having to use a crescent to get all these nuts started on these giant U-bolts, and then finish it off with my impact or just a 1/2-inch ratchet. But what I've done basically is I've taken the helper springs off, which is not hard. You take the big U-bolts off, and then that one nut right here that's going through them, and then they come off, and then you replace that with a big plate, and then that plate, and then you put your U-bolts back on. That's all there is to it, and you tighten it back up. So what you're doing, the first major step, is just removing stock, you know. And now that's back together, I can take the helper spring, and this sits down on top of that, facing this away, and then you've got U-bolts that go from here down to the main leaf springs, and then you've got U-bolts here that go to someplace else. Something. Oh, the big giant plate. Yeah, whatever. I'm tired. All right, so it's going to sit on there, and then, yeah, that's going to go over the big giant plate. I'll stack it up and mock it up, and then I'll show you. All right, so quite a difference. Factory stoppers, whatever you call it, stopper springs. The Hellwig, the sticker got screwed up in shipping. The Hellwig Helper Springs. You can see that we got 4 leaves versus 2, and those are like 10 foil in comparison to the Hellwig setup. So adjusted the preload to what I think is going to be right. So these leaf springs out here on the edges, right? So those leaf springs there, their tightness dictates preload. Now I put them not to max, but probably halfway, and then we'll test that out. If it's rattly going over bumps, that means you need to tighten it up. So I'll find that out here pretty soon. And if it rides too rough, then you can loosen it. You know, it's just sort of a play in between there. So I'm going to test it out. I mean, I didn't, crank these down, but I also didn't leave them loose because I don't want a rattly rear end. So we'll find what the happy medium is here on a road trip this weekend. The old man has found a little roadster he wants real bad as a toy. So he still rides a trike. You guys know this. Like my dad still rides his Tri-Glide Ultra. But he broke his wrist this year, the clutch wrist. So after surgery and stuff, that's healing and all that. And he's getting there. He can hold the clutch in right now, so he's really close to riding again. But I think that maybe got him thinking that in addition to he's got a 3/4 ton Ram. So in addition to his pickup truck and his trike, he'd like to have a little car, something fun, convertible to play around with. And between you, me, and I don't know if he'll watch this video or not, I think he's thinking of something to leave to the baby, baby monkey. I think that's kind of his plan. And so he's found himself a fire engine red little hardtop convertible, retractable hardtop thing we're going to go look at this weekend. And if he likes it, he'll bring it home. So, but in the meantime, I wanted to mention something before I forget. We were supposed to be working on his Tri-Glide today. We're supposed to be putting new pipes on it because Tab just came out with 4.5s. So up until now, you had to run 4-inch. If you wanted to run zombie baffled tabs on a trike, you had to run 4-inch, something with the fitment. So they now have a 4.5, so you get that bigger look in the opening. People have been demanding that forever, and they came out. So sorry to my pals at Tab. They sent me the pipes. I'm not going to show you because they look just like these. I'll show you real quick. So those are the 4-inch with zombie baffles. Before, that's all you could run on a trike was a 4-inch. Now they have a 4.5. So to give you an idea, it would fill out the rear end a little better, looks a little cooler, and you can also do the straight cut tips, you can do the slant cut tips, and I'm sure there's something else I'm forgetting. Oh, and they come in either black or chrome. I'll put the links down below to help them out. I apologize to them. I've got brand new 4.5-inch tabs with zombie baffles waiting to go on Dad's Tri-Glide, but until he's riding it, it can't come over here to get worked on. So, I mean, I could go get it, but then I have to leave. It's complicated. So we'll be doing that in the near future, but I'll put that link just so you can find those if you want to. And then I'll finish this up tomorrow, and I guess the end of this video, yeah, that's what I should do. See, I don't do stuff over multi-days, but I'm going to need to. I'm going to go ahead and finish the other side tomorrow, And then this weekend, when me and the old man run to pick up his little Roadster, assuming he buys it, no matter what, I will have 6 hours in the cab. So I'll be able to tell you, do I feel a ride? I'd imagine it's going to stiffen up the rear end a little bit. It's going to have to. It's adding, essentially, to slow that travel under a heavy load. So it's going to ride stiffer in the rear end, but whatever. But I'll give you, before I close out this video, sort of my thoughts on what it's like to drive every day. And then I'll do a further update in about 3 weeks when I go to Daytona, because I'll have my rig fully loaded. So we're going to have a rolling chopper chassis. We're going to have either the Crossbones or the Flaming CVO, probably that bike, and the golf cart. So the rig will be fully loaded down, full of water, full of clothes and my wife's toiletries, which is 1,000 pounds right there. And then I'll be able to give you a real good, like, did I feel a difference going on the highway? Because 95 is a little questionable in some spots too, so I should be able to tell a difference with these on there. So see ya in what will be to me a few days, to you a few minutes. So it's day 2 and I'm doing the second side, and I thought I would jump in here and add some, is that stable? It's stable enough. Who needs a head? Anyway, some things that'll make this a lot easier. Go ahead and get yourself an inch, and this is for GM. I don't know what other ones, but mine's a 22 GMC. I'm sure it's the same Silverado, whatnot. Go ahead and get yourself, before you even start this, a deep well impact 1 1/16 inch. That is the nut that holds the U-bolts, the leaf springs to the axle and stuff. And hit it with some penetrating fluid, then go have a beer. Maybe don't have beer. Well, have beers. And then when you come back, woo, she'll come right off. Yesterday, I was crescent wrenching it and busting my knuckles and all this stuff, and it just wasn't necessary. So hit it with some PJ Blaster, go to the hardware store, get yourself an 1 1/16 deep well impact socket, and then pull them off that way. Because I spent probably an hour getting the U-bolts off yesterday. I just did it in 30 seconds, so do that. And then that's about all that I sort of experienced yesterday that was a real pain in the rear. So I've already got the U-bolts off. I got to take that top nut off that holds the stopper springs on. Got to pop off the rubber pads. You don't need those. They actually get in the way of the new Helper Springs. And then this should only take maybe 30 minutes today, where yesterday took forever. All right, so side 2 is done. My little learning to use my damn head about getting the right size deep well, and then using some PJ Blast, that made a huge difference. This took maybe an hour. I kept having to stop for the real job, but there she be. So the adjustments are these. I think I said this before, but so even with the wheel on, if it's too much preload or not enough, you can get in there and tweak those, but it should be right. I've got them set exactly the same on both sides, which seems obvious. And then we'll throw the wheel on. I don't know that I really need a weekend road trip to tell you if it's made the rear end more firm, stiff, so many jokes. I don't know where to begin. So what I'm going to do is throw the wheel on and run out Seminole Pratt, which is close to here. There are a lot of speed humps and stuff around in those neighborhoods. And, if she's going to be noisy, which it actually says in the directions, if you hear noises, you tweak things. You know what I mean? Like if there's something that's sitting there and it's rattly, maybe tighten it, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, that's what it says. If it's rattly, tighten it. But I've got them fairly tight. I didn't leave them loose. And then I'm just going to see if I hear noises, see if it makes the rear end way too stiff, which stiff would be good if you got a whole lot of weight on there. But I'm going to go run it around, see what she's like, and I'll report back un momento, por favor. Well, just took it for a 30-mile loop. No noises, no bangs, no ticks, no nothing, no shutters, nothing like that. Drove around with the windows down. I was listening for issues. None. Zero. And didn't feel a difference. I mean, I went for the speed humps. I went some washboard gravel. I did some of this like unpaved side roads and stuff. And I can't tell a difference. So, I mean, that's a good thing, because best possible scenario here is no noises and you can't feel the difference in the suspension, right? Because what we're trying to do with this is when we settle that weight from my rig onto the ball, when I hit a bump or a ridge or this kind of stuff on the pavement, the truck won't go into that. So that's what we're doing, is just when we're starting to really put pressure down on the springs, there's additional springs to help. Thus the name Helper Spring. Anyway, so I'll put the description down below. I'm incredibly thankful to Hellwig for sending this, because honestly, that's something I sort of stressed about for a bit. Like, do I need to do airbags and a compressor and a tank? And you know, the cost of all that stuff and tons of plumbing. And I'm not a fan of anything air suspension because lines blow and you have issues. And I also think that air suspension rides really rough. So I really did not want to do that. So the idea of a helper spring, badass. So Hellwig has this stuff for all kinds of trucks. Again, mine's a new GMC. They have them for the older models. They have them for Ford. They have them for Dodge. They have them for all that stuff. I'll put the links down below. Go check them out. Again, thanks a billion to Hellwig because on the way to Sturgis, it's going to tell a difference. Make a difference. So I will also check in later. I'm going to do 4 hours on the road pulling my rig fully loaded here in a few weeks when I go to Daytona. So I'll drop some info in there on videos and also ask questions and stuff, and I'll respond. But fired up, man. This is going to be really cool. So thanks again to Hellwig. Love y'all there for watching the channel. Take care of each other out there. We'll talk real soon. Bye.